So, by the way, does everybody know what they're here for?
Here to get one-on-one attention with Wes. There we go, right?
Okay,
I'm here to learn.
What do you think you're going to learn today, or what is the class today? I want to make sure I'm in the right room here.
Showing houses. How to show a house.
Yes, how to show a house, how to show property. So, I mean, it's really just best practices I'm going to go over. It's kind of funny. I was preparing for this and going, man, you know what? There's a couple things on here that I know I'm supposed to be doing that I haven't been doing, which, by the way, is why I love to teach, right? It's me holding myself accountable, right? And just, one of the things about, I think, life in general, sometimes the more you do something, we get a little comfortable, maybe a little lazy, and I just had a deal fall apart yesterday, and I spent a good portion of the day beating myself up, like analyzing it. What did I miss? What could I have done differently or better? Did I drop the ball anywhere? Because these are good friends of mine, and I'm like, ugh, and that's, first off, you never want to deliver bad news. But by the way, a little quick learning lesson on that, because here's what angered me a lot. I called to find out what was going on, because we're supposed to close tomorrow, and this was yesterday morning, and the lender had asked for terms from from title, and we were trying to get my seller scheduled to sign. I'm like, you know what, docs aren't in now. Let me call and find out what's going on with that. Call the agent. What does the agent do? Text me back and says, call the lender. Okay, I got to be careful that I don't go off the deep end here. Call the lender. Oh yeah, that one. Well, it seems that we missed this, and underwriting caught this, and yeah, now they'd have to do this or that. It can't be done. I'm like, it can't be done? So a couple lessons in that. One is, I didn't overreact. I called my very creative lender and said, hey, can you, and I reached back out to the agent and said, do your people still really want this? Yes, they do. Okay. They need to call my lender. My lender stepped in and called me and said, it can't be done, Wes, this deal's dead. Like, okay. So really the message in that I want to deliver is, I have no idea at what point these people knew, but I fucking had to make calls to find this out. And that made me go ballistic. And the agent knew, because she instantly was like, call the lender. You know what? Get out in front of bad news. As soon as you know something, it's an uncomfortable conversation. Yeah, it is. But, or call me. Let's talk through it, because I called my people right away and said, okay, here's worst case, here's best case, here's some of the solutions, here's what I'm personally working on for you. But here's what the worst case basis is. We're going to be putting it back on the market, and you're moving out of it. That sucks. It does, without a doubt. But make the call, light on a leather strap or something, just, because those calls aren't easy. But if you're in this long enough, you're going to have to make those calls. And make that call to the other agent as soon as you know something's up. But these people knew it. The lender has known this for a while, and totally blue hot era, my what. And then I'm like, okay, I look at so I went in and researched. I don't know what this really says, but I went in and researched the agent to find out the agent just got licensed in November, the end of November. Like, who's watching over this person? Unlike here, that would never happen. But my whole lesson I wanted you guys to take away from this is, when something goes wrong, sideways, or you have wind of it, get out in front of it. Don't hesitate to make the call. Don't make somebody come and find you to tell them the bad news because you're avoiding it. That is like the most unprofessional thing I can imagine dealing with, really. But I know y'all are aces, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. But still like to talk through it. Anyway, should we get on to some good stuff and what we're here for? Wait, we wanted to learn, so that was some learning there. Anyway, Gina Marie, you're unmuted. Was there?
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's not going to get any better. Like, just rip the Band-Aid sooner. And
it never does.
Yeah,
that's my point. Is when the first sign of something, rip that Band-Aid off, because the longer you wait, the more painful it's going to be. when you go to rip. I'm telling you, you know,
And-
avoiding it is not going to make it go away, and it is not going to make it better. I promise you that.
Well, the
and
deal
then,
fell
like,
out. It may have been rescued earlier. Who knows? Something could have
Well,
changed.
yeah. And
Well,
you know, unfortunately, my clients are like, well, good, I'm keeping their deposit. I'm like, unfortunately, you know, we agreed to keep letting them extend their loan contingency, which there's a red flag right there. But we talked it through and they were willing to do it, you know, but also too, again, the loan agent was less than forthright with me. So
yeah,
it
but
happens.
as a realtor, you know, the other realtor is tainting their reputation, right? So the next time they send you an offer,
Not mean to do that.
you know, they're probably not going to the top of the list of the ones that you're going to accept, you know? So, I mean, we kind of talked
100%,
about that
it's all
too.
reputation. Look, I'm not a dummy. Stuff's going to happen. How do you handle it when it happens? That's your reputation. That's your
You
level
handle
of
it.
ace.
Handle it.
Well,
Don't
you do,
deal with it. Handle it.
but not everybody does. So
So I have a
anyway.
question. I have a question about that. So they do not get their deposit back because of why?
They know they do. They get their deposit back because they still have the loan contingency in place. They don't qualify for the loan. That's a contingency. They get their deposit back
Oh,
2 days before closing because you know, now what we should have done, well, a couple things we should have done or could have done is we could have called their bluff a lot sooner, but which that's you know, you got to you got to weigh out, is it better to push them and then lose the deal early? I think it is. You know, I'd rather lose the deal earlier in it than lose it later on. So, and what I've done in the past is if somebody wants it that bad, what I'll do is say, then fine, release some of the deposit money to me, or to my clients, and we'll extend that. There's a lot of ways to do it. So always call and talk through it with me. And the funny thing was, if I, you know, it just but now this is fresh, so I'll have a different conversation with you than if you called me a month ago. Anyway.
how's the
All right.
client? Oh, okay. Well, this is really good learning.
It is. It is. Well, anytime I have an opportunity to bring up a learn, you know, something that we can all learn from, I do it. I'm going to do it. You know, especially, and also too, by the way, I've been doing this 25 years. I've sold over 1,000 homes. It happens to the best of us. It happens. It can happen to anybody. Just because you're experienced, you're not immune from it. Yeah, Lisa, please.
I have a question. So I know it was probably just overlooked in trying to be the good guy and keep pushing out the loan contingency to keep the deal going. But how quick was the close of escrow? Was it the traditional 30 days, 21?
I think it was 25. So it was a little shorter than normal. It was a quick one.
Okay, so
Fairly
then that does kind of make sense to keep extending it. I mean, because the day before close of escrow, not having the contingencies removed
Yeah.
isn't normal, but because it was a shorter close, it kind of seems like it would happen.
But you don't want to, you got to be very careful. You don't be too quick to blow up a deal that could have stayed together. And here's one of the issues though. There are so many moving parts in a deal, and the moving parts that you can't control are really especially if you're the selling agent, they're on the lender side, or even on the buy side, it's on the lender side if they're not using someone you're comfortable with, because you're at the mercy of believing what they're telling you. Simple as that. So anyway, good conversation to have, but now let's get into best practices on how to show property. Ready for that? So 3 keywords I want you to remember: preparation, preparation, preparation. That's really what it comes down to in my, you know, when I think back over all my time, you know, and it first starts, you know, a call comes in, somebody wants to see a property, whether that's a flex lead, whether that's a referral, a sign call, you meet somebody in an open house, however it happens, you know, somebody calls and wants to see a property. So the first thing you want to do is set that appointment with them. But as soon as you set the appointment, you're going to get off the phone and you're going to go right to work on preparing for it. And the first thing you're going to do, in my opinion, well, first off, set the appointment. You set the appointment, but you're going to call the agent on whether it's 1, 2, 3 houses. and dialogue them, please. Just ask them, hey, you know what? Got some clients, they want to see the house. This time, okay, great. What do they, is there anything special I need to know about the house? Anything going on with the house? And also, by the way, is it still available? Because sometimes when you're negotiating an offer, it takes 2 or 3 days to ratify a contract or negotiate the terms out. And then, sort of go to show 2 days later, you didn't check and it's pending, or they're already negotiating an offer. So wouldn't it be nice to know if they're negotiating an offer when you're going into it, or to be able to say, hey, if you really want to see that property, they're in the middle of negotiating, let's go check it out now. So that's kind of some of the first steps is dialoguing the agents and setting that up. Then sending a confirmation video, text video to your client. Another really important thing. Now, if it's a referral, that's a good thing to do. If it's a flex lead for you ladies and it's a guy who called in, might not be the best thing to do. Just that you've got to use your better judgment. You've got to use your best judgment on that. One thing we don't utilize enough is video texting. And it's a very powerful way of communication because it really gives it more of a personal touch and locks it in a lot better. But again, you got to be use your good judgment, right? That's all I can say. Any questions on that? Cool. Let's see. Then, well, I'm going to jump around a little bit. Preparing for the appointment. So you always want to prepare for the appointment and in a way of, you always want to take something and have something in hand. We have these great folders for you guys. And it's when I meet somebody for the first time, I want to put something in their hand of value, but also something they can take away. And I can tell you, sometimes I've rushed out and I show up, hey, whatever. And maybe you give them a business card, maybe you don't, but then they're walking with nothing. And really, what more have you done beyond being a door opener? And Gina Marie and the team have created this awesome agent toolbox. So literally, when you open it up, you got 2 sides. On the left-hand side, I always put information. That information can be, the benefits of home ownership, right? Just a single page thing. You can put as little or as much as you want in there, cater it to you, depending on the client. And then there's also, you can put in sheets, house hunting checklist for them. But also too, this gives you something to kind of break the ice when you meet with them, right? Here, you're handing them this and you're kind of going over it real quick. And I usually say I usually kind of cruise through it real quick. And then also too, you can also put in finding your new home. This is basically a buyer presentation. It's about 12 pages of a buyer's presentation. And this is all in the toolbox. All you have to do is go on the newsletter, click on the toolbox. Everything's in there. Compliments of your leadership team, but mainly Gina Marie. Thank you very much. And then on the right-hand side, I always have my business card, but I also have the first thing I have in there is the houses we're going to see printed out in the client format, not the agent format. And then I would say behind it, we'll go over this when we're done looking at the house, but I pull, and I don't print the whole report, I just print the first page. I print let me show you. Print the actives, the first page of the actives, the first page of the pendings, and the first page of the solds. And what I'm trying to give, and then I'm highlighting basically, I'm highlighting how many listings are active, how many listings are pending, how many listings have sold in the last 30 days, how many days they've been on the market, and what the average price is that is being asked, that's pending, or on the last page, what the average price is in the last 30 days from what was listed to what it sold for. And I can also get, and really how I preface it is I printed these out for you just so you can get a gauge and a feel for where the market is and where it's going. And we can go into this in much more detail if you'd like. Now they've got some good stuff to take with them, right? And look over it if they want to. And here's the thing. Very, very, very few other agents out there are doing this and taking, information of value and showing their worth more than, again, just being a door opener. Because really, if you think about it, If you're not bringing them anything, if you're not going and touring the houses beforehand, if you don't know anything about the house, you don't know anything more than they do. You're a door opener. And that's really pretty basic, right? So let's see, you've done all that. You've provided the MLS, the stats, info from the toolbox. Yeah, you just want to, so you're leaving them with something. And then if at all possible, you really want to go preview the homes. I don't like walking in a home that I've never seen and showing somebody a house I've never seen. Like, oh, so this is the kitchen. Yeah, duh, it's got an oven and a stove. What I'm really looking for is like, what kind of features does it have? I want to get the feel for it, know exactly where to take them. And when we come in, I want to be talking about the house because I've seen it, right? It's showcasing my value that I'm a real estate professional and I know my stuff, right? And that I didn't just show up to open a door again. Also too, previewing the homes, if you're going to be showing more than one home, I usually like to try to preview them, all of them, but also to kind of get my route down. And I know that sounds silly, but there's a reason for that because I want to know where to park. Sometimes it, depending on if I've got 3 houses, obviously that middle house, I don't want to park in the wrong direction. So I'm having to do a 3-point turn or, turn around and mess them up. I just want to be able to go right to the houses, know how to park, where to park. And then I always tell the clients, if you see me drive by the house in and there's an empty spot or the driveway's empty, please take that. I'm going to park at the furthest point away so that you can park in the most convenient point. And always share that with them. And I always tell clients, please park if there's no cars in the driveway, park in the driveway. Why not? And take the closest spot. I'm not going to. So that way they're, again, you're providing value and just making it easy, but you're communicating all those things with them. And then also too, the reason I'm kind of driving around, I want to get the feel for the neighborhood. Now out here, I know most of the neighborhoods, but like if somebody called and wanted to see something on the other side of the freeway in Antioch, I'm probably referring that out. No, I'm kidding. But I may go, I'm going to want to go and see what's going on. What's the neighborhood like? Is that an app? What do you mean, is that an app? Oh, yeah, en route. Yeah, is help. Yeah. But I still, you can have the route, but you still kind of want to be familiar with it. So it's not like, to me, I want to be able to just go bam, 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 not have to pause for a second, like I'm looking at my app or, Waze or whatever. I just really want to be very confident when I show up and what I'm doing, where I'm going. Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry. So yeah, so that is like as part of my preparation. So for me being a new agent, I'm not very familiar with all of the different neighborhoods. So if I'm going to show somebody like 5 different homes, this app, you can plug in all the addresses and it helps you set it up in an order to where it makes sense. So you're not like zigzagging all over town.
Yes, precisely. Thank you. Thank you for realizing that. And thank you for taking that extra step. It's just you showing up as a true professional, in my opinion, and putting the time in. And it also is going to, it's also going to keep yourself a little safer, knowing where you're at, what's going on too. There is that aspect of it. Now, you get to the house, you meet the clients, whether you meet them for the first time, second time, or they were a referral. Where do you start? How do you get into the house? Well, actually, let me back up. You always want to be 10 to 15 minutes early in case your clients are running early, right? You don't want to be showing up and being rushed. You also want to go into the house and check the house out and make sure all the lights are on so it shows its best. Your job is to sell the house. We know that, houses where the blinds are open, the lights are on, tend to sell easier. On my higher end listings, I go before every showing to turn all that on because I know as an agent, I've seen agents, they're like running in front of their clients, trying to turn everything on. Not the best, it's not the highest level of service you can give, and it's not the best representation of the property. And I feel as a listing agent, that's part of my duty is to be there, ahead of time for the showings. Not be the one showing the house, but, making sure that the house presents itself because my job is to get it sold. Lisa, go ahead.
I got a question. So
Mhm.
that's great when we do it for the very first house that we show, but if we show multiples, what's your suggestion when we go to the second one, then when they're following us? we obviously can't get in there early. Is there any suggestion, or do we just kind of wing it and say, give me a minute?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I left that out. You caught it. Very good. One, a couple things. If it's a house where you had to make an appointment because there's an owner there, I would ask the agent, hey, can you will your owner leave all the lights on and the blinds open? Great. If it's a vacant house, I'm usually going there to all the houses that are vacant before I meet with my clients. So I'm doing it ahead of time. And then, believe it or not, I'll go back by and turn all the stuff off because I believe in leaving. Or actually, as I'm leaving with the people, I'll be turning stuff off behind me, right? But again, I want somebody to walk in. I want to make the best impression first. I'm out there showing people houses. I really, see, I've kind of changed my mindset. I don't go out to show people houses. I go out to sell people houses. And what's going to help me do that is making sure that whatever I'm showing them presents well. Or the best it can.
I have to say, yesterday, 9 a.m. I showed some buyers a house, and we walked in. It was literally like the seller had just left. All the lights were on. She had, which I wouldn't suggest, but she had candles going. She had music on, and the heater was on. You walked in, and we just felt at home. It was so comfortable. And then we left there and went to another property, and it was so ice cold, and it just. Which property do you think the buyer likes? The one that
100% correct.
on.
And actually, we're in a transition right now, but that brings up a good point. In the middle of summer, in the middle of winter, I like to go make sure that that the temperature is right. Because are you going to have a good time? Are you going to have an easy time selling a home when you walk in the middle of summer and it's like a sauna? No. I've got when I have vacant homes, I tell the sellers, look, I need you to leave it at whatever temperature, just, so it's not, it's not too cool, it's not too hot, you just don't want it uncomfortable.
How do you address that on the other side when you're showing a home and it's not your listing? You just go in
if it's
there.
Well, again, if they're vacant, you go check them out ahead of time and make sure that they are, all dialed in that way. It's simple as that. And then, if you're showing one where the seller's vacating, chances are the temperature's fair enough. It wouldn't be blistering hot or, ice cold. So that's, and again, yeah, that's who said that? That's a perfect world. And it's, you're not always going to have a perfect world. Sometimes you're going to run into those situations. I typically don't like to, I don't like it when somebody says, hey, I want to see a house in 2 hours. I really want more prep time than that. And that's usually somebody who's just using you as a door opener. And sometimes with Zillow, we know that sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to be mobile and be able to mobilize really quick. So now that so now that we've determined you're going to try and make sure the houses are set up as best you can. You meet your client's first house. What do you do when you meet the sellers, you're both in the driveway, and it's time to show the house? Actually, you've now gotten the key. What do? You
let them walk in front of you?
Well, if the door's unlocked, yes, actually, that's a good point. That's what I was getting at. You unlock the door and let them go in first. Especially, and that's actually safety 101, by the way, is let them walk in first. Never walk in front of them. That's, unless they're personal friends, or again, referrals, that until them and you're comfortable with them, that's just a safety thing, and you always want to kind of, and that was it. We can get into a whole lot more, but you're also looking at, when you're previewing, I'm looking at exit strategies. If you've never met the people you're showing, that is a piece of the business that you have to think of. I probably don't think about it enough because I'm really, I'm not exempt from anything happening just because I'm a guy, but I probably don't have enough, I think my odds of something happening to me are probably a lot less than a female. Just because people prey on who they feel are victims, and a big guy is going to prey on someone, have an easier time preying on someone much smaller than me. Just saying, that's just data points, right? But, be careful. And if you're unsure of somebody and you're in a 2-story house, send them upstairs and wait downstairs for them. you know? So you
Yeah,
guys,
that's
you know,
what he tells us to do when we did the real estate safety course. He said,
Yep.
you don't need to be upstairs with them. Let them go and
if
do
you
their
don't
thing.
know them, you really, again, you want to exercise caution and listen to your gut always, please. You know, literally. And this is more again for those, you know, for the flex ones, not the, you know, referrals or people, you know. And then, yeah, so now they've seen the house and, you know, let's take a hypothetical. You're going to show them 3 houses. And by the way, I heard, Christine, I think you heard you say you were showing 5 or something. I like to try to keep it to 3 and no more. Sometimes, okay, 5, whatever. But believe it or not, you start losing it after 3. Like, okay, which house had this? Which house had that? And you're diluting your ability to potentially succeed, you know, that day. I usually tell people, I'm going to show, they're like, well, I want to see more houses. Great. I'm going to show you 3 of the best houses based on the criteria you gave me. And then we'll see how you feel after that. So the first thing you do after they've seen the house, after you're getting ready to leave, you know, I call it either the island consultation or the driveway consultation. So you're either around the island or you're in the driveway walking out, and, you know, just blatantly ask them. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what'd you think of that house? And by the way, if they said, man, that was a 10, what should the next thing out of your mouth be?
All right, let's write an offer.
Okay, Gina Marie, you've been around me too long. You're not allowed to participate.
Don't get another black eye, Gina Marie.
That was funny, Lisa. No, I'm kidding. That was, yes, that is exactly it. I mean, hey, so are you ready to go back to the office and write an offer? Well, no, we want to see the other houses too. Okay, but this one was a 10. So barring the other 2 aren't 10s, you're ready to ride on this house. You would ride on this house. You're trying to get their temperature, you guys. I mean, don't be afraid to have that conversation and ask. You know, there's nothing pushing anything I just said. It's just a conversation. And I kind of do it jokingly, you know, so they don't feel like I'm like pressuring them. And then, you know, what I do is after that, you know, after every house, or, you know, if they say, well, you know what, that was a 6. What should you ask them at that point? Or what should the next thing out of your mouth be at that point?
What was, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would ask them what made them rate it out of 6? What would have made it a 10 for you? Or what would have made
That's
it?
the answer I was looking for. What would this house have to make it a 10? What's it missing that doesn't make it a 10? You know, you're really just on a fact-finding mission. You're trying to understand what they want so you can find the house they want. So that's perfect. And you know, and then you're on to the next house. And then from there on, you start kind of, you can rank them, or you can ask, you know, I usually say, okay, I use the first house kind of as a baseline. And I said, okay, did you like this house better? So I already have what it was on the scale. So would you like this house better than the last house? Yep. Okay. So is it getting closer to a 10? Yep. What was this house missing? I mean, it doesn't have to be this exact dialogue or this exact script, but the point is to stay in curiosity and keep asking questions. So let's say, remember, we're only seeing 3 houses. So now we go see the 3rd house. And you've asked them again. So out of the 3 houses, which one did you like the best? Or on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you can go back to it. Well, that one was a 9. So you ready to write an offer on that one? Or, you know, which house did you like best? And you ready to write an offer on it? Because my opinion is there's usually not a 10, right? I mean, you have a wish list, you want to get as close as possible, but maybe there is. You know, I find that most people write offers on houses they consider an 8 or a 9. Just FYI, that's been my experience. That's my experience. That is not the word or the rule to follow. Again, just my experience. Usually I find out people who get so excited and they say this house is a 10, they're usually people who never end up writing on that house. I end up showing them for a very long time because they just get excited about houses. Make sense? All right. So now that you've done all that and we've hit the last house, And the best you could get out of them was a 7. By the way, sometimes I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, 7's not a good answer, or you can't use a 7 because that's kind of like 7's always the safe play, right? Like, what do you do with a 7? You know, it's not quite good enough, but it's really, you know, I don't know. Take 7 out of the equation. Basically, I'm already before I leave them, I'm already trying to set up another appointment. Okay, great. So I know the first house was missing this, this, and this. I know the second house was missing this. I know this house was close, but if it only had this, you know, I have a really good idea. I said, I'm thinking of a couple houses in mind. I'm going to go back to my office and email them to you. And barring you like them, when would you like to go out again? Thursday at 6 o'clock or Saturday at 10? Ask for that follow-up. Don't just walk away. Ask for it. And if they tell you, well, we're not sure of our schedule, you know, give us a call. Okay, but at least you asked. You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Super simple. And yeah, so to me, that's actually kind of almost the closing, right? It's the drive where it's setting the expectations and the next appointment. So I'm going to go home, or I'm going to go back to the office. I'm going to dig this up for you or that up for you. If they say, you know what? Yeah, we love that second house. That's the one. We want to write an offer on that. Then what do you say? What do you do? Go ahead, Christine.
I would say, okay, let's write it up. And you know, how much do you want to offer?
Yep, pretty much. I always want to kind of get the feel for what they want to offer, kind of dialogue that. And then what I'll usually say is, okay, so I'm going to head back to the office right now, or I'll be back to my office in 2 hours. When I know my schedule, so it's like I'll kind of set that expectation, and I'm going to shoot you an email with all the other information I need to be able to write the offer. You know, and I'll usually send them an email like, okay, whose names are going to be on the contract, and can you please, you know, and how are they spelled? How do you want them to read on the contract? That way it takes all the guesswork out for me and I don't miss anything. I also say, you know, I get everything in writing. You know, the other thing is, you know, how much we be putting down. Actually, it goes back to, I missed a big step in here. I put it down on the bottom and I should have put it up at the top. In that first meeting, whether you're meeting for a first time, if you're meeting for a first time, especially if they're a flex lead, you should probably already have this conversation with them if they're a referral or you know them, which is, you know, three really simple questions for me. When do you have to or want to be moved by? Gives me their level of motivation. When do you have to or need to be moved by? Or excuse me, when you have to or want to be moved by. I just put want in there because not everybody has this immediate need, right? They're just, some people are kicking tires. That'll kind of give me an example. They'll kind of get me, they'll surface that for me, right? Their level of motivation. Then I always ask them, how long have they been looking? So I'm going to want to find out. I'm not going to attack that answer right away. I'm going to put it in my back pocket and bring it up a little bit later. Like, so what was it about your last agent that you that didn't work for you? Right? Because if they've been looking for 3 months, I'm not their first agent. They might already have an agent, but obviously they're out looking with me now. So I can kind of start getting to the meat of that and what's going on there. And then on the first meeting, and again, these are questions you can ask, not of a Zillow client until you meet them, but every other potential client, you know, what lender are you working with? Just an assumptive question that they're already working with the lender. If they say, well, we're not yet, we haven't even started that. Okay, great. Would you like a couple referrals? Or yeah, we're working with so-and-so. Okay, well, I'm going to need their information so that when we get to the point of writing an offer, I can communicate with them and get a pre-qual letter that fits the ad, you know, that has the address and fits the price model that we're going after. So it gets the ball rolling, gets everybody it gets you getting the information you need. So that way, when you're in the driveway and you're saying, hey, I'm going to go back to the office and, you know, write this offer up, I'll send you an email with everything I need, you know, including, you know, how much do you want to put down as a, you know, put it up as a deposit. And I always put 1 to 3% is what's standard and customary. And the more, you know, 3% definitely makes your offer look stronger. How much are you wanting to put down? You know, or if I've already talked to the lender and I know these things, I have a pre-qual letter, I'm just verifying these things, right? Because you don't want to assume. Maybe something's changed. Maybe they don't want to close in 25 days. Maybe they want to close it, you know, have a 35-day escrow. But and also too, I've already talked to the agents, right? So I already know what the needs are. If this seller's going to need a rent back, are they going to need to, you know, maybe it's towards the end of the year. Some people like to close, you know, some people are going to want to close on January 2nd versus December 30th for tax purposes. So there's all these little, you know, intricacies that you can find out ahead of time to help write a clean, solid offer and write it once and get it accepted.
Is this a thing that you would recommend putting together in High Note? We didn't really talk about that. I know you talked about bringing over a tangible folder. Where would an agent put in the High Note platform that we have for them?
You can do that. Remember, you're talking to the yellow pad guy who writes everything down, doesn't do a whole lot of tech stuff. Although you guys, we have High Note for you. I think we have a few seats available on that, and it's a great tool. I know people that love it and use it. So, you know, and I know that actually younger people tend to use it more, you know, I mean, it's a generational thing, right? You know, when I'm dealing with people in my, I guess, demographical age range, you know, it's hit or miss whether they like the tech stuff or not. You know, I mean, but that's what I got Gina Marie and Patrick for. It's like, okay, I need a High Note for this. And that's just, you know, a way of making it look really pretty and electronic. So not a bad thing to do. I mean, know your audience, I guess, is that part of that too. You know, and I always ask people, what's the best way to communicate with you? Text, phone, email. Usually it's text. People these days like text. You know, I resisted that for so long, but I've been doing this for really long. When text first came out, I'm like, screw that. I want a voice. I want to talk to somebody. I need to hear that in, you know, I need to hear the tonality, the inflections, the attitude. I need to hear and talk to people. And I still prefer that, but I know most people prefer text. And I even tell people, you know, with my busy schedule, text me first when you need to talk to me, and I'll, you know, make sure I'm available, and then I'll jump on a call with you. So any questions about any of that? Best practices in showing? Anybody have any feedback or anything I might have missed? Because again, I am not the end all be all. I am not perfect. I have my way of doing things the way I think they should be done. My best practices doesn't mean you can't add to that.
The only thing I wanted to mention, just because we're recording this, I did put it in the chat. When Wesley was talking about things that you can bring to, you know, when you're meeting your clients, another thing that we recommend is something for the little ones. If you know they're going to have like a little backup and you can brand it. I have a little worksheet that's like a scavenger hunt, and I've heard great feedback from it just to keep them a little busy. Sometimes some agents also will pack like little snacks, trail mix or something like that, and bottled waters in their car.
That's a great point.
And if anybody has anything that you want to add to this, any kind of tool that I can make for you to put in the toolbox, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you with that. I'm always trying to listen on these meetings to make things easier and better for you guys to just set yourself apart.
Roger, I know you were unmuted for a minute and Gina Marie jumped in. And I know you are, you do a lot. You have a very high level of doing this, and you've been doing it for a little while. So anything you want to add?
Yeah, I learned from a old school agent something that I think would go in when you're showing multiple houses. And for me, it's worked really well. And I've been kind of thinking about it. And I think it would work even better with like this flex program. First time meeting a client, and it's going to sound a little aggressive, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very laid back. And that's before you even go in, just let them know I'm willing to show you as many houses as it takes. And that could be 50, or we could walk in on the first one and you'll know this is the one. And that way, and you want to get on writing that so that we're not behind the ball. And you planted a seed that when they come out and say that's a 10 out of 10, like what you were, they are now pushing, let's get this thing written. They push it. You don't have to have the awkward side of it of, well, do you want to write? No, you've already established, we can look at 50, but when you find it, let's be ready to go.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that has another hidden message in it, which is like, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm here for you, with you. I think I took more of that from it, and I think that's great. Again, it comes down to just, I have all through my notes here, setting expectations, and that's exactly what Roger's talking about, which is great.
Well, that's why I like it so much with the flex, is now you're starting the seed of I'm your agent.
Yeah, and with flex, it's even more important because, you're trying to get 1 out of every 10, and, you've got to really bring your A game on that because you're
Yep.
trying to win them versus, and realistically, my goal is that flex is a great way to help build your database, but you get your database to a point where you don't ever need flex now to take a cold lead again, because, you've built that database, and with your great reputation of being an ace, people are sending you people, that's the best business of all. That's the best numbers game, right? I mean, flex is the best numbers game out of cold lead gen, except a database. Somebody in your database sends you a client, better than 50% of the time, that's gold. You're not having to fight for them. You're not having to, do a lot of things. It's like, that's a solid. Or a past client. I mean, those are just solids. I would love everybody doing that. And then we just keep getting new agents to take on flex to build their business and get ramped up. And then, a couple of years, they're like, okay, appreciate the opportunity. Thanks so much. But I got enough business coming out of my database now. And that's really where we're taking and designing our classes too, is to how to build that and work that database, because that's where you want to be. First off, you're going to keep a lot more money that way. And you're not going to, it's not going to be as much of a grind. Hey, look, I've taken over 170 leads myself, or 160 something. I know what a grind taking leads is, going through that process of funnel metrics. It's a grind, it's work. But I'll tell you what, I love that grind more than I've loved any other grind other than my database, easy. But I love flex way better than I've ever loved open houses, door knocking, cold calling, farming. It's just a better deal. So
I really love
nonetheless,
how you have an attitude of, I'm not just opening doors. I'm serving my client. I'm selling houses. And I think it's a great mindset to have, as you're, I'm not showing houses, I'm selling houses.
Leslie has, and that's a good point. I mean, Leslie has a point. Leslie's thing is, every time she gets a flex lead and she goes out to show a house, her mind says, I'm going out to sell this house to this person. And by the way, Leslie is one of our top converters. Is that by chance? No, I think there's a lot of things you can take from Leslie. And one of them is mindset. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm trying to back you guys up and I'm taking calls and I really don't want to be. So I literally end up just in my own mind, I gotta go out and open, show this house. What did I just do right there? And I have done that, by the way. But when I put my head in the game and think, I'm here to sell houses. Your that's what I'm looking for. Your ratios change. Your data points will change. You will sell more when you show up prepared and to sell the houses versus just open the doors. But again, that's just reality. I don't do open houses. I tell all my listings, I won't be doing your open house because I really don't want to. My mindset's not there to do it, so it's really ineffective, right? Because I know the main reason that, most people don't buy a house from going through an open house. We're there to collect buyers or potential listings. And I'm not interested in collecting more buyers. I have enough I get out of my database. Or I'll take flex leads if I, if I have to. But and again, I don't unless we're thin on help, because it's, I'm not here to compete with everybody. So thanks for your insight. That was good little tidbit, Roger. Appreciate that. Christine?
I have a question. So going
Sure.
back to the earlier part of this call, you mentioned putting a printout of like active, sold, and pendings from the MLS. So I was curious on the format. Are you just pulling that list and then exporting it into like an Excel and just printing that, or do you have
No, I just
So-
print it. And then when it comes up for print, I just hit page 1 because I really don't care what's on that. I care more about the data on that's across the top for their reference. Now, I
The
shouldn't say
average.
that. What I will do is like if I'm showing, if I have enough time to prep, I will go a little extra mile, actually, now that you say that. And like if it's in Brentwood, I might be tempted. Yeah, our RPR, which I don't use, again, I'm just a RPR is another good resource, which they just did a class on. For me, I'm just a raw data person and like to, touch it, feel it, show it to them, versus something else kind of calculating it for me. Because I can just explain it better since I printed it out myself. I usually like to, like if somebody wanted to see a house in Brentwood, let's say my listing on Mulberry, it's a pool, $885,000. I might print out the whole list of what's active, as well as narrow that down based on the criteria, some of the criteria of that house. So I can say, hey, if you're interested, here's some other houses that kind of fit the same criteria, but also too, if you're out driving around or you're just curious what's going on, here's a list of everything priced from highest to lowest. So you can really get a good feel for what's out there or what's on the market. I will do that sometimes. But even when it's not a cold lead or not the first time I meet him, I'll still usually take something like, especially those sheets printed out, just like, here's what's going on in the market right now. It's like you can see, there's 101 houses available, 56 pending. So basically I can say, you've got a 2-month supply of inventory right now. Silly little quirky things you can throw out there like, oh, wow, okay. Or what do you mean by that? Well, it means there's 50 houses pending, there's 100 available. So if no more came on the market, they'd be absorbed in 2 months. So hang on a sec. Do you get ahead of culture? Well, yeah. So I think Christine, were you the one I taught this to? Yeah, I mean, out here you don't deal with a lot of that. Sometimes if you're going over the hill, you're going to run into cultural things. And there's certain things you could probably pick up and should know about different cultures. The main one is the main ones I know and go by is Asians. The Asian culture has a real problem if anybody's passed away on the property. That's like almost like a hard line. Nope, we're out.
Can you say that again, Wes? You broke up.
I said basically like the Asian culture, I know that one of the hardline things for them is if somebody's passed away on the property. So I know that one. I'll usually tend to research that. I know that the other one really, they've gotten the Indian culture, the way the house is facing, the way the front of the house is facing, the front door is facing. That is a big one. That's probably the one I've come across the most. And they really like it to be facing east or north, not west or south. And you will notice if you go into certain parts of the Bay Area where they've built new neighborhoods, like they have purposely designed the streets and the front of the house is all facing that way on purpose. And you'll see it in marketing. All homes faced east. Not even kidding you. And is that racist? No, that's just knowing the demographics of your market. Call it what it is. I mean, that's how you successfully sell.
Well,
And
this
you
this
can go.
could be a good selling point though, right? If you know that that's something they're looking for and maybe okay, I'm horrible with direction. I'm sure I'm not the only one. How does an agent know which way that's facing so that you don't waste your time going to a house like that?
Your phone has a compass, and then if you know who you're dealing with and know that that is a problem for your client, it's very simple to go on the MLS, blow up the little map on the side, and the map is exactly north, south, east, west. Or I think, Christine, what did you say? No.
Never eat shredded wheat. That's what I learned in elementary
Okay.
school. I love shredded wheat, but that's how I remember.
So never eat shredded wheat. And when you blow that up, you can see where the front of the house is, and you can usually kind of tell where the door, by where the entryway is. If you blow it up enough, it'll almost show the layout, the outline of the house, and you can tell which way it's facing very quickly. Because if the front door is facing this way on it, what is that? That's direct west on that little map. It is to the T. So you can start ruling out houses pretty easily.
I was chuckling a little bit, Gina Marie, because I still am working with these clients that were specific on where the front door faces. And they were asking me to drive to the properties to check. And so I told Wes about it and he's like, you can look on the little map. I didn't even think about it. So yeah, that's cool. It's like you could actually like zoom in, you can see where the street is versus the house and yeah, and not have to do all that driving around.
Christine, I didn't even realize it until about a year and a half ago when I actually had some clients that were hardcore on that one too. And, you know, I finally figured it out because I'm like, okay, this is going to be ridiculous. I can't be driving all over the place looking at the dang front doors and which way they face. And by the way, if you're ever with someone, I mean, your phone does have, and well, the iPhones, they do have a compass on it. So anyway, all good stuff, you guys. Anything else? We're coming up against time here pretty quick. All right. Well, you guys, this was awesome. Great participation. Thank you, everybody, as always. And I've got this pretty lined out, and I'm almost done with the last class I did, getting it reformatted and lined out. And then Gina Marie, within the next week or so, or when she has time, we'll kind of get these into more of a outline format and kind of chronological and the steps it should take. And that way you can have that as a reference as well, versus having to watch this again or take this again. And this will be on WRU, Ace University, probably Friday. So every Friday, Patrick uploads all the classes we did to that. So you can always go get bits and pieces from it. So, all right, you guys have a great rest of the week. If you need anything, we're here for you.